Bugatti didn't think that we were going to be able to separate this car in half.
Back at the Bugatti.
What if one man, working out a garage in England, could do what billion-dollar corporations claim is impossible? What if he could take a car that was written off, declared dead, and bring it back to life so perfectly that even the people who built it couldn't tell the difference? That's not a hypothetical. That's exactly what Matt Armstrong just did. And the luxury car world, they are absolutely furious. Hold on, because before we get into what Matt posted, you need to understand why this video has the entire automotive industry watching nervously. Why engineers at some of the most prestigious car manufacturers in the world are sitting right now discussing one YouTube channel, one man, one garage, and a secret that they never wanted the public to know. This is a story of how a self-taught mechanic from Northampton just exposed the biggest lie in the luxury car industry and accidentally started a revolution he never saw. Let's go. You have to understand something about the luxury car market before any of this makes sense. When you buy a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a McLaren, a Rolls-Royce, you're not just buying a car. You are buying a promise. A promise that this machine is so sophisticated, so technologically advanced, so impossibly complex, that only the manufacturers own certified engineers. With their proprietary tools, their factory-only software, their multi-million-dollar diagnostics equipment, can touch it. That's the story they sell. That's the wall they've built. And that wall is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Think about it. Dealer service monopolies, astronomical repair bills, cars declared unrepairable after minor crashes, because the insurance companies are told, by the manufacturers themselves, that the cost to fix them is greater than the car's value. Cars with 15,000 miles on the clock. Cars worth 200,000 pounds. Written off, crushed, gone, because apparently nobody outside the factory can fix them. That's the lie. And Matt Armstrong just blew it wide open. Now, if you don't know who Matt Armstrong is, let me paint you a picture. He's not some corporate-backed operation. There's no team of 50 engineers behind him, no manufacturer sponsorship, no secret access to dealership tools. It's just Matt, his garage, his team of a few loyal mates, and a camera. He started his YouTube channel doing salvage rebuilds, buying wrecked, written-off cars at auction, fixing them, and selling them on. He was good at it, really good, but nobody, not even Matt himself, could have predicted what was about to happen when he decided to take on the most ambitious project of his entire career. A car so wrecked, so catastrophically damaged that multiple professional body shops turned it away. A car that the insurance company had declared a total loss without a second thought. A car that one of the most prestigious manufacturers on the planet said, publicly, officially, could not be repaired, could not be made safe, could not be restored. A car that, by every conventional measure in the auto was finished. Matt bought it anyway. And what happened next changed everything. Here's where you need to really pay attention, because this is where the story gets genuinely shocking. When Matt posted the first video in the series, people thought he was crazy. The comments were brutal. You've wasted your money. That car is beyond saving. Even the professionals won't touch it. What makes you think you can? The skepticism was overwhelming. And honestly, looking at the state of that car, he pulled out the trailer. You couldn't blame people for doubting him. The damage was catastrophic. We're talking structural deformation, crumple zones that had done exactly what they were designed to do, absorb energy in a collision by destroying themselves, bodywork that looked like it had been through a compactor, electronics that had been fried, suspension geometry that was completely obliterated, a car that, by every professional standard, was a collection of very expensive scrap metal. But here's what nobody knew about Matt Armstrong. Here's the thing that his subscribers were just beginning to understand, and that the luxury car industry had absolutely no idea about. This man doesn't just rebuild cars. He studies them. He tears them down to their last bolt. He reads engineering manuals that most professional mechanics have never even heard of. He contacts specialists around the world. He sources parts that don't officially exist on the aftermarket. He fabricates what he can't find. And he does it all on camera, showing every single step, hiding nothing, explaining everything. He is, without question, one of the most skilled automotive rebuilders on the planet, and he was about to prove it in the most dramatic way imaginable. The first phase of the rebuild was structural, and this is where even Matt admitted on camera that the scale of the challenge was hitting him differently now that the car was in pieces on his garage floor. When you see a wrecked car from the outside, it looks bad, but when you strip it down, when you pull away the panels and the trim, and you're staring at the bare chassis, that's when you truly understand the violence of what happened to it. Matt stood there, camera running, and said something that sent a chill through his audience. He said quietly, almost to himself, "I don't know if I can do this." That moment, that single moment of raw vulnerability from a man who is relentlessly positive, relentlessly confident on camera, that moment got clipped, shared, posted across social media because his audience felt it. They understood the weight of what he was taking on. And instead of people piling on with negativity, something remarkable happened. The automotive community, actual engineers, actual fabricators, actual specialists, started reaching out, offering advice, sharing knowledge. Because something about Matt's honesty, his transparency, his genuine passion for this machine resonated with people who spent their whole lives working on cars. That network of knowledge, that collective intelligence that started flowing into Matt's project, that is something no single manufacturer, no matter how prestigious, can replicate. And it was just getting started. Out here is where the luxury manufacturers start getting nervous, really nervous, because what Matt was doing wasn't just rebuilding a car. He was documenting in forensic detail exactly how these cars are built, every weld. He handed them the car and essentially said, "Tell me the truth. Is this safe? Is this structurally sound? Would you put a family member in this car?" The tension in that video was unlike anything his channel had produced before, because the stakes were real. If the engineers found every joint, every structural reinforcement, every piece of engineering that the manufacturers keep locked behind NDAs and proprietary repair manuals that independent mechanics can never access, Matt was pulling back the curtain. And what he was finding was simultaneously impressive and deeply, deeply inconvenient for the companies involved. Because here's the thing they don't want you to know. These cars, these supposedly impossibly complex, irreparable machines, they're not magic. They're incredibly well engineered. Absolutely. The craftsmanship is extraordinary, but they are not beyond repair. They are not so technologically advanced that a skilled, determined, well-resourced person cannot understand them, cannot work on them, cannot fix them. The irreparable label? That's not always an engineering reality. Sometimes, and this is the part that should make you genuinely angry, sometimes it's a business decision. Let that sink in for a second. A business decision. A car worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, owned by a real person, that could be repaired. Being declared a total loss because it's more profitable for certain parties to sell you a new one. Matt Armstrong's rebuild was exposing this in real time, frame by frame, panel by panel, and millions of people were watching. The structural repair phase took weeks, and every single day, Matt's team was in that garage, working, learning, adapting. There were setbacks, serious ones. There were moments where parts arrived damaged, where measurements that should have been identical were off by fractions that matter enormously when you're talking about structural integrity and crash safety. There were nights. You could see it in Matt's face during the filming, where he must have gone home wondering if the doubters were right. But here's what sets Matt Armstrong apart from anyone else doing this kind of content. He doesn't hide the failures. He doesn't edit out the mistakes. When something goes wrong, the camera keeps rolling. When he has to call in a specialist because something is beyond his current knowledge, he films that too when a part doesn't fit, and he has to rethink the entire approach. He walks you through his thought process in real time. This radical transparency, this willingness to be wrong on camera in front of millions of people, is both what makes him so compelling to watch and what makes his successes so absolutely massive when they happen. And the successes were coming. Slowly, painfully, one impossibly difficult step at a time. But they were coming. The chassis was being straightened. The structural geometry was being restored. The car was, against all odds, beginning to look like itself again. And the comments section was going absolutely insane. But wait, because just when the rebuild was gaining momentum, just when the online community was starting to truly believe this was going to happen, something unexpected occurred. Something that none of Matt's subscribers saw coming. Something that turned this already remarkable story into something genuinely extraordinary. A representative from the manufacturer reached out. Now, I want to be careful here, because Matt has been deliberate about how he's characterized this communication. He didn't name names publicly in the way that would invite legal complications. But the message was clear enough, and Matt shared enough of it with his audience for the implication to be unmistakable. The communication was not congratulatory. It was not an offer of assistance from a company impressed by a passionate enthusiast honoring their product. It was, shall we say, a communication expressing concern about the rebuild, about the documentation being made public, about what Matt was showing the world. In other words, they were worried. The billion-pound luxury car manufacturer was worried about one man in a garage in Northampton with a YouTube channel. Think about that. Sit with that for a moment, because what it tells you is everything. It tells you that Matt had stumbled onto something real, something significant, something they would preferred stayed hidden in the sealed manuals and the proprietary databases and the lockdown dealer networks. He was too far gone to stop. The rebuild continued. The body repair phase of this project was where Matt's reputation truly transcended the automotive world and entered something else entirely. Because what his team achieved with the bodywork, the panel alignment, the metalwork, the sheer precision of returning this destroyed car to its original form, was, by any objective measure, extraordinary. We're talking about sections of the car that had been geometrically deformed in the crash being returned to tolerances measured in fractions of a millimeter. Paint matching that professional body shops with factory color codes struggled to achieve. Panel gaps that were, honestly, better than some brand new examples you'll find sitting on showroom floors. The comments from professionals in the body repair industry during this phase were remarkable. People who have spent decades doing this work for a living were leaving detailed, technical comments expressing genuine astonishment. Not the breathless fan reaction you might expect from a YouTube comment section. Actual professional assessments from people who could evaluate what they were seeing with expert eyes. And what they were saying over and over was some variation of the same thing. This is not supposed to be possible. Not at this level. Not without factory resources. Not without proprietary tools. Matt Armstrong was doing the impossible. And he was doing it in public. Now here's where the story takes another turn. And this one hit different even for long-time subscribers who thought they'd seen everything. Partway through the rebuild, Matt did something that other YouTube rebuilders simply don't do. He brought in independent structural engineers to assess his work. Real engineers. Credentialed professionals with no connection to Matt's channel. No incentive to be generous. No reason to say anything other than exactly what they found. Problems. If the structural repair wasn't up to standard, Matt wasn't going to hide it. That wasn't his style. He would have shown it on camera and dealt with the consequences, however painful. His entire brand is built on honesty. On showing reality, not a curated highlight reel. The assessment took hours. Matt stood around the garage with his team, visibly anxious, making jokes that didn't quite land because everyone could feel the weight of the moment. And then the engineers came back with their report. The car passed. Not barely passed. Not passed with reservations. Passed. Structurally sound. Geometrically accurate. Safe to drive. Safe to register. Safe to put on a public road. The car that the manufacturer said couldn't be repaired. The car that was written off without a second thought. The car that multiple professional body shops turned away. Passed an independent structural engineering assessment. The comments section broke. But here's the part of this story that goes beyond the rebuild itself. Here's why this matters in a way that extends far beyond one impressive YouTube project. What Matt Armstrong has done, and is continuing to do, is fundamentally challenge the narrative of planned obsolescence and artificial irreparability that has quietly dominated the luxury automotive world for decades. Because his project is now a piece of documented evidence that cannot be undone. The footage exists. The engineering assessments exist. The detailed breakdown of exactly how to approach this type of rebuild exists permanently in the public domain. Every time someone with a written-off luxury car gets told this can't be fixed, they can point to Matt Armstrong's videos. Every independent mechanic who gets stonewalled by proprietary tools and lockdown software can point to this rebuild as proof that the knowledge can be found, the parts can be sourced, the work can be done. The wall that the luxury manufacturers spent decades building, the wall that generates billions in service revenue and forced dealership repairs and total loss write-offs. That wall now has a very large, very visible crack in it, and it has Matt Armstrong's fingerprints all over it. The mechanical and electronics phase of the rebuild introduced challenges that even Matt admitted he hadn't fully anticipated.